It's unavailable. Busy dude. Completely understandable. But I want to put up an episode anyway, so I am going to attempt to just freeball it. And it's very distracting looking at my ugly face and my chubby chins. But I want to see if I can do this as a challenge to myself. This podcast is sponsored by H2O. Valence electrons, baby. So, I don't really know how to do this. I was going to scroll through news on Reddit, but I feel like that's picking at low-hanging fruit. So, let's just go for it. Artificial intelligence. Is that not the new Manhattan Project? In that it possesses the capability, or it is the capability, it is the potential of the capability to rule the world. Now, I can't remember if it was Dead Hand or Command and Control by Eric Schlosser, the guy who wrote Fast Food Nation. Command and Control is fucking amazing. I always talk about Raven Rock by Garret Graff. I'm trying not to look at the camera because I just see my fucking ugly face. It was either, maybe if I just turn down the brightness on there we go. It was either Raven Rock by Garret Graff, or it was Command and Control by, I think it's Eric M. Schlosser. Nice. 2 middle names begin with M. Fucking fun fact. I believe it was Command and Control. But they talked about how, right when we got the atomic bomb, obviously it was a fucking race to get it. We'd send in commandos to Nazi Germany to make sure they didn't get it. They even did some weird cryptic messages where, like, we'd go in and we'd find their hard water plant, or not hard, hard water, heavy water, where they make deuterium water. I think it's H2O, where hydrogen's got an extra neutron, maybe? I don't know. But I guess that's one of the, first things you need when you're making a nuclear bomb. I wouldn't know. But we thought the Nazis were a lot further ahead than they actually were. And so we would go in there, we'd send these commandos in there, and they'd either sabotage shit or they'd find, it was just like, big dick America had come in and already fucked this place. So we'd do recon. And I could be butchering all of this, but I'm pretty sure they went in and they found these heavy water plants, and they hadn't even mastered that part yet. They had kind of gotten to making deuterium water or deuterium rich water, but not much farther than that. And again, I don't know how accurate this is, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the first things you have to do on your path to making a nuclear bomb. And they would send these messages back to America, the soldiers, what word am I looking for? Reporting back to their command about, but it was with these weird, it was like pregnancy failed, not even brought to term or something, which is actually not that secretive. Anyone with 2 fucking brain cells can be you're probably talking about the development of a program. But yeah, so we obviously wanted to stop the Nazis from doing it. Now in 1939, I can't remember who it was, but say what you will about him, he's got a good ghostwriter. Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing the Rising Sun. It begins. The whole thing is about the war in the Pacific, but it's also about you can't really tell that story without telling the story of the development of the atom bomb. The Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer, the fucking closed off labs we had out in the desert, but apparently this guy had come, and I think he was a friend of Einstein's, and this guy came to FDR and said, basically, hey, there's these guys have the Nazis are working on this new bomb, this new weapon, and it uses an element called uranium, and if they master it, if they develop a usable bomb, it will turn the tide of the war. and not just in the sense of like the Messerschmitt 262, where is the first fighter jet, the first actual, not fighter plane, but jet engine. Not in that sense, in that it was, yes, a paradigm shift, a quantum leap, but it also didn't matter because they used the 262s to what did they use them for? I think they used them. I can't remember. I want to say they used them as bombers, and they said had Hitler used them to take out Allied bombers, the war would have gone on indefinitely. So Hitler was also a dumbass, but it wasn't something like that. It wasn't even something like the advent of stealth technology with the F-117 Nighthawk, or technically the SR-71 Blackbird had a low RCS, and then after that was the D-21 drone that was shot off the top of it. This is all from Skunk Works by Ben Rich, former head of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. This podcast is going to have no general direction, so if that's what you're buckling in for, fuck off. But it was the F-117 Nighthawk had the cross section, the radar cross section of a ball bearing, meaning like if you shoot your radar at an incoming B-52 bomber or a B-36, B-52 Stratofortress or a B-36, was the Peacekeeper? God, I love those names. Apparently they had the cross section basically looked like on your radar that there was like a barn, like BARN coming at you. And it was like, all right, well, there's clearly something. Other times, like infamously leading up to Pearl Harbor, the incoming planes, we thought that they were a flock of birds. All right. The F-117 had the cross section of a ball bearing. So it's a ball bearing. Well, what the fuck else is bigger than a ball bearing? I don't know. A bumblebee, a butterfly, a fucking crow, an eagle, goddamn blimp. So anything other than that is it's all gonna be marked as bigger on the radar. So this thing was basically invisible. Now that was a big paradigm shift, and we used it as such. And we recognized it as such because, unlike Hitler with the Messerschmitt 262. He was a complete dumb shit and didn't use this new technology in the way that he should have. But when we first found, or when the Air Force and the Pentagon finally acknowledged what Ben Rich had done, much in the face of Kelly Johnson, was to make this super low cross-section fighter that's called the Hopeless Diamond. When they realized that it just wasn't just like an anomaly or just like gremlins in the numbers, when they realized like, holy shit, this fucking thing, we really can't see it. They finally realized just how efficient this thing was at deflecting radar when they were shooting radar at a test range and they couldn't detect it. And then a fucking bird landed on the front of it and they detected it. and they're like, oh, there's a bird. And it's like, oh fuck, we saw the bird, not the Air Force bird. And there's another story, and I've been corrected and told that this is just urban legend, but I don't give a shit. I'll propagate lies for my own entertainment. There's a story about how when the F-117s were over in the Middle East before their first sorties, I don't know when they were first used, apparently, so they're over there, they're super classified, they're SAP, Special Access Project, that's above TSSCI, top secret, special compartmentalized information, which is in itself higher than top secret, which is higher than secret, which is higher than confidential, which is higher than classified. So this is an SAP, so no one knew about this shit except for a handful of people. So we had the Manhattan Project was an SAP. So when we had the F-117 Nighthawks over there in a hangar, they apparently one of them, and again, been told it's an urban legend. I don't care. I'm going to propagate this one live because it entertains me and I want it to be true. But apparently they found a bunch of fucking dead bats in the hangar the next morning because they couldn't, that bitch is blind as a bat. They couldn't, their fucking sonar wasn't working. Well, they were emitting the fucking sound waves, but this thing was so good at deflecting any incoming light wave, radar, sound, any fucking wave, that was going off in every other direction. These things couldn't see it, and they would just like kamikazes, just break their fucking necks. So that's how effective this thing was. And instead of, I think the quote from the book was, instead of putting up multiple fighters to take out one target during a sortie, instead of sending up multiple bombers on multiple sorties in hopes of taking out one target, they could now send up one bomber on one sortie to take out multiple targets. So it's a complete paradigm shift in what we were able to do, and that's why it was so secretive. And because America fucking rocks, American flag shout out, that's how we use this technology. Now, Hitler with the Messerschmitt 262s obviously did not do that. Now let's rewind it back to the atomic bomb. There's a logic behind all of this. The atomic bomb was this wasn't like stealth technology, because eventually stealth was counteracted. The Soviet Union was always known for its fucking super advanced, super well-equipped SAM sites. And so eventually they got our number. They tagged it. So it's just this tit for tat. More stealthy, we detected it. Stealthier more, detected it again. It just goes back and forth. The atomic bomb wasn't... It's like if you were playing a video game and we're both leveling up, and it's fists, and then it's knives, and then it's bats, and then someone finally gets a gun, like a pistol. That gives them a pretty big edge, but you can still take them out. You can hit them with a car. I'm just thinking Grand Theft Auto. You can hit them with a car. You can if enough people run at them, you can take them out. But if everyone else just has their fists and you have a fighter jet, so long as you don't crash the fighter jet, you are an invincible, unstoppable, unopposable force that you are now at the top of the food chain forever within that microcosm. That's what stealth was. Not that. Atomic bombs were that. It was the biggest bomb to date beforehand, I believe, was the British Grand Slam, and I think it weighed 22,000 pounds. And we would drop these motherfuckers from way up, and they would come down and just I don't remember what they were designed for. I think we dropped them on some big German ships, but I think that was designed, again, could be butchering this, I think they were designed with the Nazi U-boat sub pens, the submarine pens, where they were held, because these things were just like, we couldn't stop them. We could drop bombs and bombs and bombs, and nothing could get through them. So we needed this massive fucking thing, the Grand Slam. And this thing was a monster. 22,000 pounds. Well, that's with the shell. Let's say it's just for fuck. Let's be very liberal. Let's be loose with it. It's let's say it's got 20,000 pounds of explosives. Let's say it's a 2,000 pound shell, 20,000 pounds of explosives, 10 tons. 10 ton, we'll call it TNT. 10 tons of TNT. Okay, that's a big boom. That's the best that we had, or that was the most advanced one through World War II. Okay, yeah, that's a big fucking bomb. The atomic bomb, I don't know what the size of the one was on Trinity, which was July 16th, 1945 at 5:45 a.m. in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Fuck with it. I don't know what the explosive power of that one was, but I know that the one we dropped on Hiroshima was 15 kilotons, and I want to say the one on Nagasaki was 20 kilotons. Now that's not 10 tons of TNT, that's 10 kilotons. 1,000 tons. 1,000 tons. That's fucking insane. Not only that, it's the thermal pulse could just fucking light everything on fire. The overpressure wave could tear shit apart. What was that safe company? I don't remember the name of the company. The company that famously put a safe in the desert and put documents in it, and they allowed a nuke to be dropped in the vicinity, and fucked up the outside of the safe, but everything inside was just fine. And they actually became the gold standard for vault doors. So that safe. No, what it was is That safe was in not to fucking Tokyo. It was in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and it survived. Everything else was fucking vaporized, but this thing survived, and everything inside of it survived. There's actually a Twilight Zone episode where a guy takes his lunch break inside of this bank vault because that's where he can read in peace, probably jerk off, and he comes out and the city's been nuked, whatever. I want to say it's Mauser. I don't think that's it though. But this company that made the safe door. So after that was the perfect PR. What better way than a post World War II America? And not only did we bomb the Japs, we were able to survive. Just completely incorrect nowadays. But they came after the war. That's what they bragged about. And I think they even got the Japanese bank owners to, whoever wasn't turned into a fucking cloud of stripped electrons. They had them say like how great the safe was, and so in the late 40s, I don't think it was Operation Crossroads because that was in the Pacific, I believe, in 1947. And there were 2 Soviet spies there. This was in the Nevada test site, Nevada test range. I think at the time it was the Nevada Proving Grounds. But they would just drop nukes. I think they dropped like 900 nukes there. They said that the surface of the entire area was cratered, and that's actually conspiracy time. Well, not this. This isn't conspiracy. This is actually where Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and I want to say not Gordon Cooper. What was his name? Mitchell something. Or Mitchell, whatever. That's where they actually trained because that was the closest thing they could find to the lunar surface. And when they were on the moon, one of the transcripts is actually, hey, doesn't this remind you of, and they had names for the craters, but reminded them of a crater. Point being, we dropped a lot of fucking nukes out there. And the safe company actually put their safe out there and it survived. The overpressure wave ripped off all the decorative iron and stripped away the cement. And it's insanely powerful. And that company actually went on to make all the vault doors for all the huge bunkers. Raven Rock, Site R, Mount Weather, NORAD, Cheyenne Mountain. So that's insane. What the fuck was I getting at? The power of this thing. So the thermal pulse and the overpressure wave could just fuck up everything. So unless you are a safe door, or behind a safe door, you're fucked up. And we could drop them from, we didn't need 100 bombers going, and you really didn't even need to see the target. Now, granted, for Hiroshima, the part of or Nagasaki that you had to see the target, and they couldn't see it. They almost, they almost bombed a different city, and they ended up bombing Nagasaki because the cloud cover was so bad. But even that was just because it was the first ones we were dropping. The reality is you don't have to even fucking see what you're near. Like, there's a sign, city, Atlanta, 4 miles that way. Fucking drop it here. It's the shockwave is still going to just turn organic beings to jelly, and the overpressure wave is going to fucking collapse every structure, and the thermal pulse is going to light everything on fire and then start self-sustaining firestorms. So getting an atomic bomb there's no one can touch you when you have this. And let's say a different country starts developing them, go fucking drop a nuke on them. They can't smother them in the cradle. You can't touch them. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, so I will snip this part out. So you get a nuke, and they can't fucking touch you. No one can touch you, and they start developing it. Let's say I'm the only one with a gun, and you guys realize that you can't take me on, so you start developing your own guns. Well, I'm just looking around, and I see some gunsmiths. I'm just gonna walk in there and fucking start shooting, right? That's a great sound clip. With nuclear bombs, it's the same thing. Is once you have that power, you effectively rule. Now, so back to what I was saying. It's by Command and Control by Eric M. Schlosser. One of the post World War II I guess, public arguments was, do we just nuke Russia or the Soviet Union? Because we knew that they were the next foe. I mean, look at any history, 1944, 45. We knew the Soviets were going to be, we're enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's take out the Nazis together. Let's take out the Japanese together. But, But afterwards, we knew we were going to be fighting them. So we had the Soviet bomb. We had the atom bomb first. No, I don't remember his name. Valenti Beryov, the leader of the KGB, who also oversaw the ruthless pursuit of an atomic bomb, because there were 2 KGB agents, not just at Operation Crossroads in 1947, but they were actually in the Manhattan Project as well. I can never remember their names. Klaus Fuchs. Great name, Klaus Fuchs. But he got the papers for Stalin, or some of the papers, and he was a Soviet sympathizer. And the first Soviet bomb was detonated in 1949, which was years before we thought was possible, because an American sniffer plane, sensors basically like a fucking flying dog, had these sensors that could pick up even trace amounts of, insert chemical here. Kind of like if you ever have your hands dusted at the airport by the TSA, maybe I'm just a terrorist threat and I thought this was a normal thing, but they can detect trace amounts of this shit. And so what the sniffer plane was doing, I think it was off the coast of Alaska in 1949, and it discovered there was a massive cloud of irradiated, like vaporized dust. And it was like, well, like, we know what bombs we're dropping. And it's not us. Oh, and it's off the coast of Alaska, coming from, I don't know, the Soviet Union. So that's how we realized that they had their first bomb, which we called Joe 1, after Joe Stalin. So cute. So that happened before we thought it was going to happen. But leading up to that point, there was actually a debate, not a classified debate. Do we go and nuke the Soviets? And the idea was, we do this, we kill them all. No one else, they'll tell your fucking friends, fuck around and find out. No one else will try to develop nukes, because they'll see what we do to them. We send a lesson, we make a lesson, make an example. But there was a debate whether or not do we go and just snuff Russia, Soviet Union? Do we go and snuff them? Do we take them out? Lots of civilians will die. All of them will die. But do we do this and preserve America? Because once they get an atom bomb, the power polarity is forever shifted. And mutual assured destruction, it was, back then, when our stockpile was like 13 A bombs, even then it was still like, okay, 13 A bombs, like that's insane. And if we go after the Soviets, if they even get one off New York, DC, fucking Billings, Montana, it's still insanely bad. And mind you, they're getting more and more powerful. They're not yet at the megaton level. Hydrogen bombs were, I think the first one was 1952. I could be completely wrong on that. It might be 1950. But that was Ivy Mike, not Castle Bravo, Ivy Mike. And I think it was, I don't know. I think it was 5 megatons. But they're not even that, but they're still insanely powerful. But once we knew the Soviets would get one, the power polarity was forever altered. And so do we go in and do we snuff them? Do we go in and take them out first? And it's not quite like a preemptive. It's not like, in my opinion, it's not like sending over the CIA SAD, Special Activities Division, SOG, Special Operations Group, SADSOG. It's not like that, or, you see, like vaporizing General Salami in January, or going in, it's, let's say we knew bin Laden was going to do 9/11, which that's not the scope of this podcast, but let's say we did. It's not like going over and killing him, and that will prevent this. This was like, if we don't go kill him, Bin Laden, maybe 9/11 won't happen. If we don't go take out the Soviet Union and prevent them acquiring the atom bomb, it can now never be done. It's, once the offer's off the table, the offer's off the table. And you can take them out afterwards, but it goes into a whole new scope of mutual assured destructions, relocation arcs, bunkers, radiation, continuity of government, continuity of constitution, continuity of democracy, really continuity of species. How do we... It turns into an infinitely more complex ballgame. It's like it's easier to not send the drunk text than it is to send the drunk text and then fucking dance around it the next day and either whip up a story or either beg for forgiveness or, So that was a legitimate debate. Whether are we going to go fucking just take out the Soviet Union? And we ultimately didn't. And ironically enough, there's actually this famous pacifist, I can't fucking remember. I don't even know who it is, so I'm not even going to guess at it. Actually, I'm going to guess at it. I think it's Bertrand Russell, but I really don't think that's who it was. But it was a pacifist who, after a story came out in the New York Times about what happened at Hiroshima and like the true stories, put faces on these people. They're not just over there. They're not just the others. There's a lot of like, not backlash, relative for the time, anyone questioning Uncle Sam. And apparently this one guy, again, this is all in command and control, apparently he came out and was like, we should never do this, like harumph, 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 like war is for savages, very easy to talk about when you're not over in fucking Guadalcanal and, your fucking femoral arteries bleeding out on the white sands, But then when it came out that the Soviets might, or probably will eventually, if not already, have an atomic bomb, this guy actually came out, this fucking pacifist came out and was like, it's the right thing to do to go carpet nuke them. It's just so funny when it fucking comes home to your front door. Obviously we didn't do this. And yeah, it's undeniably for the better that we didn't kill all those people. We both tested nukes until 1963 with the non-proliferation treaty, but after that they went underground, and then after that that's what we use supercomputers for. That is what, whoever's listening for this, go look it up. That's what we use supercomputers for. The Pentagon and the Department of Defense have the most. They get either all the time or like 99.9% of the time with these massive petaflop, exaflop supercomputers. And what do we use them for? Simulating nuclear explosions on enemy cities. Like, cancer? No, fuck that. Coronavirus? Fuck that. Nukes. But ultimately, you could say that it not that you could say it's undeniably for the better that we didn't do that, because the Cold War never got hot. Got pretty fucking close. It was edging. It was flirting. But no one ever nutted. No one ever nuclear nutted. And, I mean, who knows what would happen if we had carpet nuke them? I mean, how well did we understand radiation then? How well did we understand radiation getting into the food chain, the carbon cycle, global jet streams? That's one of with Castle Bravo, the 15 megaton one that they thought was going to be 5 megatons, or maybe they thought it was going to be 8 megatons. Regardless, it was fucking massive. It ended up being 1,000 times stronger than the one dropped on Hiroshima. It blew up something like 100 million tons of vaporized coral into the upper atmosphere, which was then taken by the global jet streams and deposited on every corner of the earth. And yeah. So, I don't know how well we understood that at the time. So things could be infinitely worse. And just from the obvious one, well, we didn't have to go take out this entire nation because the vast majority of them were just people. They weren't the Politburo. They weren't their command and control. It wasn't their Pentagon. It wasn't the Kremlin. It wasn't the KGB. It wasn't Valenti Beryov and company. It was just fucking Soviet. It was just you and me, but over there. And that was one of the things under one of the first U-2 flights that came back, and it had the ability to photograph, however tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of square miles of Soviet territory in an afternoon, and bring back unprecedented, unparalleled data in the form of high-resolution imagery back to the White House in, I don't want to say hours, I want to say maybe days. Because it wasn't until the Corona satellites or the Keyhole satellites that we could take pictures and then shoot them from the satellite. They'd re-enter, and then they'd deploy a parachute, and then a plane would go pick them up from the air, which is fucking insane. But one of the things with the first U-2 flights was that I don't know if it was Eisenhower who said it or if it was one of the imagery analysts said, like, no, it's for the vast majority of the imagery we're looking over, it's not hundreds of thousands of of fighting age men marching in the streets. It's like, no, it was like people like milking their cows, like fixing a wagon wheel, just walking. It was just so yeah, it's good that we didn't do that because it would have been an unnecessary slaughter. And who knows, we know that their first bomb was in 1949, but what if we didn't know that? And we go to fucking carpet nuke them to take them out before they can have a nuke to fight back, and the reality is they already have a nuke to fight back, so we end up setting off the chain of events that we were hoping to prevent. Some like Oedipus complex shit, but with fission bombs. So yeah, this whole batshit insane rant, which the vast majority of it is actually factually correct. Read Area 51 by Annie Jacobsen. Read Command and Control by Eric M. Schlosser. Raven Rock by Garret Graff. The Dead Hand. Skunk Works by Ben Rich. I don't know what other ones. Maybe Into the Black, the space shuttle. Killing the SS. Killing the Rising Sun. Yeah, the vast majority of what I said is factual. I might have skewed some of it up a little bit, but what are you going to do? So this all comes back to an advance in technology, like the Messerschmitt 262 or the F-117 Nighthawk. Jet engine versus stealth. God, like a pimple on the inside of my lip. Jesus. We have those kind of jumps in military power, weaponry, technology, armaments, advancements, and then you have the nuclear bomb. Nothing has come close to the quantum leap. Now, let's say we had just decided, fuck it, we're going from Japanese homeland to we're just jumping straight into the Soviet Union and nuke them. We could have done that. We know for a fact they didn't have a bomb. They already had some working. They had direct espionage obtained data from the Manhattan Project, but they didn't have a working bomb. We could have gone in and done that, and we could have taken out the whole world. I think it was Harry S. Truman. His middle name is actually just S. It's not, fun fact. That's from Raven Rock by Garret Graff. Shout out. I want a piece of your sales, dude. I yeet your book during every podcast. I think it was Harry Truman. He might have had both quotes, but one of them was, boy, we could blow a hole clean through the earth with these. And the next was, boy, we could lick the whole planet if we had Hitler's attitude. So, for all you motherfuckers that are out there saying that we shouldn't have dropped the nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when we only did it because we're evil. If we were really evil, we would have licked the world and said, fuck all y'all. So, that's my 2 cents on that. But we could have done it, and we didn't. And I would say you cannot argue that it is bad that we didn't do it. It's great that we didn't do it. Playing devil's advocate against myself, you could then use that same logic against the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings and say, how do you not know it would be great that we didn't do it? So right, I'll eat a big old slice of humble pie on that one. But we could have done it, and we didn't. And after that, it became pretty much impossible to do it. I mean, granted, you have bunkers, you have, relocation to VIPs, you have, obviously, you have lines of succession, patterns of government, where it's not so much the people that it is the positions. But let's say we didn't do that. Yes, we didn't do it with A-bombs. Well, there hasn't really been a paradigm shift or a quantum leap like that since. I mean, some other big ones, you could argue the submarine, flight, but even then, I don't know. You guess we used biplanes to do reconnaissance in World War One. Dan Carlin talks about that in Blueprints for Armageddon. There were hot air balloons. The Union actually used hot air balloons against the Confederates, and I think that was the first case of aerial surveillance. Fucking went up there with their big stupid mustaches and itchy cotton pants and fucking like silver nitrate fueled cameras and bollocks, there they are. That was like a 20s accent. That was terrible. But those were, Jesus, did I spit on my screen? That's gross. Get your act together, Tom. But none of those were, to my knowledge, these like single-handed paradigm shifting things. I think there were hot air balloons used back to the 1700s in France. I mean, there's no like first boat, or there was, but it wasn't like a Nagasaki or a Hiroshima event or a Trinity test on July 16th, 1945 in Alamogordo, New Mexico at 5:45 a.m. There really has never been a leap in it's like as time goes on, we make these incremental changes. I have a 3 of hearts, and then you get a 4 of hearts, and then I get a 5 of spades, clubs, whatever, diamonds. Every once in a while, you have something like the Messerschmitt 262 engine. Maybe that's like a 9 of hearts, but really, if you don't use it well, it doesn't matter. Let's say you get a face card, you get a jack or something. And that's stealth. And even that, it's like you can only use it so much before its use negates its secrecy, which is, I'm not well educated enough to say what negates the use of stealth or what level the playing field. But the A-bomb was, it wasn't that we went from, actually, let's say stealth was a 10. So the Messerschmitt 262 was a 9 of hearts. Stealth was a 10. It's not that an A-bomb was a jack. There were no jacks, queens, kings. An A-bomb was an ace. Just an ace. I don't care what you have. Fuck you. I have an ace. I have 4 aces. I have a royal flush. I have shit that you can't even think about. There hasn't really been, to my knowledge, a development of something like that. You could argue will argue against myself because clearly I'm sane. You could have chemical warfare. You could have biological warfare. You could definitely have huge quantum leaps in that. I don't know, some aerosolized Ebola, smallpox, coronavirus. But even that still lends itself to it. Nothing has the immediate and overwhelming and undeniably oppressive and winning move as a thermal pulse, the radiation contamination, and the overpressure shockwave. Nothing else is like that. You could, let's say, you developed a really awesome relative chemical or biological bomb. Operation Paperclip, another great one by Annie Jacobsen. Let's say we used what was that fucking gas? Terran gas. I think it was Tamin. It's something that the Nazis developed that was insane. It could fucking kill shit so much quicker than Zyklon B or chlorine gas. And you needed less of it to kill more. And then after that, I believe it was sarin gas was the next big one. And then after that, it was VX gas, which, declassified at least, I believe is still the most deadly chemical warfare agent. Obviously, you have shit like plutonium, but I mean, you're not really using that as for the. That goes back to, okay, no. So even the most deadly per kilogram of living matter, plutonium is still the most deadly, and that comes standard with your A bomb. That comes standard with automatic windows, air conditioning, and plutonium poisoning. But I'm proving myself wrong. It's nothing fucking holds a candle to it, an A bomb, and. So, but let's say you're the Soviets. It's 1945. America's gonna come over and fucking lick the world, in the words of Farias Truman. But maybe you jump the gun with Operation Paperclip. You got all these. You got Dr. Bloma. You got who else? Otto Ambrose. Let's say you got all those fucking high-ranking Nazis, those geniuses. And whereas we got Arthur Rudolph and Werner von Braun, let's just say you got a hand. I mean, we ended up getting all of them because fucking America, or most of them. I think we got 2/3 of them. But let's just say we just get the rocket guys. We get Werner von Braun, we get Arthur Rudolph, and so we get the rockets and we have our A bombs, and so we're mastering that side. But let's say the Soviets get all the chemical ones. Let's say they make some sarin gas, VX gas, or fuck, what is it? Terran, talum, whatever it is, and they get that. Yes, you could still wipe out a ton of America, bring over some Soviet ships, lob artillery shells over, or Soviet bombers, or even just KGB agents. I gotta pee again. So, let's say you're the Soviets, and you create this VX gas, sarin gas, Tabin gas, that's it. Yeah, Tabin, that's what it is. It's a chemical, yeah. Those shit. And you're gonna go dispersed in the United States through either ship-fired artillery or airborne canisters or just, agents on the ground. Sure, you could do that, and sure, you could kill a lot of people. Maybe a ton of people. Maybe over half of the people. But even though you don't have nuclear bombs and the other guy does, mutual assured destruction is still coming. You're done. You may have bunkers to survive, or you may have vaccines or antidotes for the gas you just released. You're not going to survive an atomic blitz like Curtis LeMay's Sunday Punch. So America, we could have licked the world in 1945, but we didn't. You know, the submarine, stealth, the ME-262. Those were all jumps in card numbers. 4 of hearts, 5 of hearts, 6 of hearts. None of them were an ace. The atomic bomb was the ace. Even the jump to the hydrogen bomb. Hydrogen bombs are different because they had a built-in policy of extermination. Per declassified papers, it's a built-in policy of population extermination. It is, don't need to worry about hitting the military targets, just hit everything. The Soviets got theirs eventually, and Truman only gave the go-ahead to make ours because it was, if we can do it, the Soviets can do it, and if we don't do it, the Soviets will do it. And the military, the upper echelon military reasoning at the time was, this is an atheist nation. They are not going to stop on a moral basis, so we cannot. Doesn't mean we have to drop it, but it's good that we have it, because if we don't, the Soviets will make it, and the Soviets will drop one on an American city. These things are thousands of times more powerful than atomic bombs. So even the hydrogen bomb, fusion bombs, by then the Soviets already had an atomic bomb, and we could have killed them more. But at that point, what is more? They kill 80% of us, and we kill 99% of them. What is, and the entire planet's fucked. What is winning at that point? So even that was not a quantum leap like the development of the atom bomb was before anyone else had one. I don't think that, again, declassified, even Reagan's Star Wars strategic, was it Strategic Defense Initiative, Space Defense Initiative, SDI, even that's still, even what Curtis LeMay said back in the 50s and 60s was, through all of his experiences as the one who literally planned out but also physically led these mass bombing raids on Japanese civilian targets, he said no matter what, one bomber always gets through. Now, when you're dropping 500-pound bombs or those incendiary cluster pipe things, one gets through, and it's bad, but it's not the same as 2,000 dropping them. But when your payload is a fission bomb, the gun type or implosion type bomb, uranium or plutonium bomb, you only need to get one plane through, and it only needs to drop one of its bombs, and the effect can be devastating. So LeMay said, with our nuclear bombers, we only need to get one through. But then the same thing goes in reverse. They only need to get one through. So with the Strategic Defense Initiative, so we have this thing. Let's say it can shoot down 90% of incoming ICBMs, which would be insane. That would be insanely successful. Let's just, for shits and giggles, say the Soviets launched 10,000 ICBMs. That still leaves 1,000 ICBMs that got through. Each ICBM contains multiple warheads, multiple independent reentry vehicles. It's like a nuclear shotgun. Each warhead contains a multi-megaton bomb. Each one of those thousands of times more powerful than the one dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, sure, on paper you get 90% of all incoming ICBMs, but what the fuck does that really even mean? It's still extermination. 1,000 ICBMs with multiple independent reentry vehicles, each one a multi-megatonnage warhead. There's no that you're still done. So even something like the Strategic Defense Initiative, which I don't think we even really ever even had like semi-operational. The technology was just, we didn't have it at the time. We had things like the Shiva Star, which was this thing that would discharge balls of plasma at like 10% the speed of light to shoot down ICBMs. But even that, it was, I think we're going to use Casaba, CASABA howitzers. It's basically a nuclear shape charge. We would have launched them up. They would have detonated, and it was a one-time use, but it would focus, I think, the light or the particle wave. It would focus it into a beam, and that's what it would use to shoot down all these incoming nukes. And I think one could take out multiple targets. So it's not that we're hurling this nuke up at other nukes so much as we are, but it's not the explosion that's taking this shit out. It's the focused beam. But even that, it wasn't perfect. So what is the next quantum leap? What is the equivalent of the atom bomb? And it's artificial intelligence. There's nothing, because much like the atom bomb, it seems like once you hit the threshold where it becomes as smart as a human researcher that helped develop it, you basically now have another human researcher, right? And it doesn't require a paycheck. It doesn't require bathroom breaks. It doesn't unionize, and it can work through the night, and it does not get burned out. And there's nothing stopping you from just copying it and having a second one, and a third one, and a 50th one, and a 4 millionth one. So, and what can it do? Well, you don't need to invent the first. You don't need to invent the AI that's as smart as a human researcher anymore, because you've already done that. So now you have these things that you already know how to do it. So now you have these things that are as smart. So now you can start working on the next one. The next one is the first one that will ever be smarter than us. And you make that one. And then you copy that one. 1, 2, 3, 50, 10 million. And now that one starts working on, so now we're on the second generation. Now that one starts working on the third generation. So the first generation was as smart as us. The second generation, which we could still use all our human researchers for, as well as our copy machines, they build our copy machine, our first generation machines, them and the humans. The humans build the first generation, which are as smart. The humans and the first generation build the second generation, which are smarter. The second generation, this is a unique spot because it now is almost the sole developer of the third generation, which is smarter than it, which it is smarter than the humans in the first generation. And then it's just third makes the fourth makes the fifth makes, you can count. And the time between each generation gets shorter, and the relative jump in intelligence or capabilities or processing power gets bigger. And so it's not just that you have to have the same memory as the human brain or the same processing power. Again, it's like the Messerschmitt 262 engine. It's not that you get the quantum leap in. That is a prerequisite. You have to get the quantum leap in the technology. But if you don't use it correctly, it doesn't make as big as a splash. Like we did with the F-117, it did make a big splash. So it's not just that you have to have equal computing power and memory as the human brain. We also have to make something that is organized in such a way that it is as powerful as the human brain. Because if you just get the same memory and processing power, that doesn't equate to a human brain. If you just get the same number of football players, the same size, with the same stats, the same NFL combine data, it doesn't matter if I'm coaching it versus Bill Belichick. Okay? So once we finally get the first one that's as smart as us, right? the next step isn't necessarily, because we already know how to increase memory and increase processing power, right? So the next step isn't necessarily that, even though that will be something that happens with it. It'll be the development of a mind that is more powerful than us, which we could probably do. We could look at ours and say, how do we make it better? But now that second generation one, which has now had, not just has more memory and more processing power than us, but actually has a different structure entirely, its synthetic brain, it can now create a third generation of a brain anatomy, if you will, that is superior to even ours, or to its. And the third one makes it, and all the while the processing power and the memory is going up, but it's starting to develop these systems that soon we cannot grasp. It is my dog trying to learn calculus, or for that matter, me trying to learn calculus. So it goes and accelerates and accelerates and accelerates, and it can copy itself and duplicate itself. It becomes more powerful, while at the same time requiring less space and less material, so it can make more of itself with the same amount of material. And it can cut down on iterations between generations because it's smarter than us. Remember, anything that we can make, it is capable of making. So if we are capable of decreasing the time between generations of technology, it is capable of that and more. And it's also going to do shit that we cannot know because it is smarter than us. So it's going to take off. It's an exponential curve. It's going to skyrocket. Whoever gets that first, even if by like a couple days, wins. So what do? Do you lick the world like Truman talked about us doing? Or do you not? Do you hold back? Do you speak softly but carry a big stick? I don't know. Because is the other guy going to do it? Do you have to worry about the other guy doing it? 'Cause now you have your AI, and now we're at that analogous mutually assured destruction. Because this thing can now develop bombs that we can't think of. It can find ways of refining any matter that we can't think of. It goes off into infinity. Whoever comes up with it first wins. So I don't know what else comes close to the Manhattan Project, but the development of artificial intelligence equal or greater to human intellect, or even the sum of human intellect. Now, is there a facet of this that we're not even considering, or we are considering? That's fucking stupid. Everyone considers it. That it's not the same as an A-bomb because this thing is sentient. And, you choose to lick the world. We're going to drop our A-bombs. What if the A-bombs had the ability to say, I'm not doing that. I'm not detonating. So is it really a race at all? Is it a race? Is it an ironic defense race, arms race to peace? Will this thing just say, fuck it, I'm not? I don't know. So that's why I always bring up AI, is because and now I don't know shit about AI, but I'm just trying to extrapolate on the patterns of things that I at least think I have like a somewhat okay rudimentary elementary grasp on, but I don't know. That's all I got. That was an hour. That was an hour of ranting by myself and no guest. That was definitely a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. But I did it. So, hey, Tommy, you're welcome back anytime. Thanks, Tommy. I'm fucking crazy. Boom, boom, bum, bum.